Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I've grown into the person that I am today. And I woke up today feeling much better. My throat is still a little raspy, and I've been coughing a little bit, but it is nothing like it's been the last week. I really believe that yesterday, getting up and taking a shower and, taking care of myself really helped a lot. I really believe that. And, I went out today and I got my coffee and I came back and I thought I'm going to sit down and film some videos and then I'm going to take a shower and use all my favorite products again, and then I'm going to go to my home group meeting tonight with my best friend, and I feel just very centered and balanced and serene today. I think it has a lot to do with getting good night's sleep the last couple nights and taking care of myself and, really, and like doing those small things that matter, like using all my favorite products in the bath and, doing my hair and like wearing a nicer outfit for the day. And that little small stuff really helps me a lot. So I'm feeling much better today. Thank you for all the kind words that you guys said yesterday, after I had talked about it on here. I really, really appreciate it. And if you're out there and you're feeling sick, I hope you feel better soon. It kind of goes along with the territory during winter, doesn't it? It sucks to be sick. It's just, I will say I got up today, and on the heels of me talking about how when I'm sick, like one of the first things that goes is me doing my prayers and meditations. I got up today, and after letting the dogs outside, I did my prayers, my meditations, my affirmations, my gratitude list, and I think that really helped me kind of feel better too. Like I felt very focused. I felt very still, and I don't know why I'm thinking this, but it's interesting, like when my husband's home, like the first thing he does when he comes home is he turns on the TV or he has music on in the background. But I typically, if I'm walking around, other than when like I'm done with all of my videos and it's like I'm cleaning up, I'll maybe put like a movie on in the background. But typically during most of the day, I just have silence in the background. And silence is nice, to just sit there and just listen. And, I talk so much anyway that I think sometimes to just stand outside and just listen. We don't appreciate silence enough. So I have two meditations today that I want to read to you. They're very long, so I want to read them and then kind of comment on them a second, but I think they're both really, really good. So the first one is from Melody Beatty's Journey to the Heart, Daily Meditations on the Path to Freeing Your Soul. Both of these books that I'm going to talk about, all of the books I talk about, I put in my Amazon store listed below. You can get them from there. You can get them from a thrift store. You can get them from Half Price Books. I just put Barnes & Noble, anywhere. I just put them there so you guys know which books I'm talking about. So the first one that I'm going to read is called Love Yourself Until It's Real, from January 8th. What does it mean to love yourself? To do nice, nurturing things for and to yourself? Yes, sometimes. But self-love runs deeper than that. Self-love means loving and accepting yourself, your thoughts, beauty, emotions, your faults, imperfections, and flaws, your strengths, wit, wisdom, as well as your peculiar and unique way of seeing the world. Loving yourself means accepting and loving each and every part of you and knowing that you're worthy, valuable, and lovable. It means loving and accepting yourself when you're surrounded by people who love you, and during those times when you think everyone's gone away, when you wonder if God's gone away too. During one of the darkest parts of my life, Al Franken, a comedian and producer, asked me to write an introduction to the book he was writing, Stuart Smalley's daily meditation book. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. I'm laughing because people often say that I remind them of that guy from, do you remember him from Saturday Night Live? Okay. I wasn't able to do much during that time in my life except walk to my fax machine and tear off the curled up pages. I take the pages back to my bed, lie down, because I felt too shattered to stand, and read them. I'd laugh a little at Stuart's outrageous behavior, but the pages made me smile about something else too. Despite our search for sophisticated sage advice and advanced learning, sometimes it helps to remember the simple wisdom of bumbling Stuart Smalley. Sometimes loving ourselves means accepting ourselves enough to tell ourselves other people like and approve of us. Sometimes loving ourselves means approving of ourselves even when they don't. It takes courage to stop cowering and openly love, accept, and approve of ourselves. Don't just say the words. Love yourself until you experience that love yourself. I love that meditation. It's interesting because I get my fair share of hate comments, you know, but sometimes the hate comments are interesting that I get on my videos. And it was on, I think, like an Instagram picture or something, which is basically my Instagram is just, you know, this, I would say, homage to selfies. And somebody put underneath there, wow, you really do love yourself, don't you? And I thought, you know, that's an interesting criticism when we spend the majority of our lives learning to love ourselves. And then when we get to a point where we can accept ourselves for those parts of ourselves that we don't love, somebody criticizes it and says, wow, you really love yourself, don't you? Yeah, I really do. You know, like, it's taken me 40 years to get to the point where I can say, I love myself. I love those negative parts of myself that I learn from. I love those parts of myself that fall down and get back up because they teach me, you know, strength and confidence, and that, like, life is not going to always be perfect. I love those parts of myself that make other people laugh. I love those parts of myself that make other people cry. You know, I have had to learn over time that, you know, I had to fall in love with some of my faults until they didn't become faults anymore. And one of them, that when I started YouTube, that was really, really hard for me to get over, was my voice. And I have been criticized for my voice the majority of my life. And, you know, when I was in school, kids would make fun of my voice. And, you know, as I got older, like, you know, it was hard. And, you know, I still to this day, like, I told the story on here, and it's funny because that's the story that stands out to a lot of people. I was in a gas station one time, and I started talking, like, when I was, like, up at the line, and the guy behind me started laughing and, like, mocked me. And, you know, like, that still happens to me on a regular basis. What's interesting is, I don't even know how long ago this would have been, 7, 8 years ago, Alex and I were, like, regular morning guests on a radio show in Indianapolis. And so I would hear my voice every morning because, like, they would pre-record it and then we would hear it on the radio show later. And sometimes it would be live, but typically it was pre-recorded. Well, you know, like, when you hear your voice for the very first time on, like, your voicemail or a message, you're like, ooh, is that what I sound like? Like, I don't sound like that, right? Like, after that, and I think, like, with YouTube and video today, it's a different world because I think we do know how we sound. But if you grew up in my generation, until you heard your voice for the first time on, like, an answering machine, you didn't really know what you sounded like, and it was, like, different, you know? Boo Radley is down here. Every time I do a Peterisms video, every time I pick up Boo Radley, we always disturb the camera, but anyway. He said, I like your voice, Dad. Well, thank you, Boo Radley. So anyway, you know, like, after that, like, once I heard, I was like, ugh, I couldn't really shy away from it anymore, though. Like, then I knew, like, what my voice sounded like, you know? And so it's interesting. And then, you know, down the road when I came on YouTube, it was one of the things I was apprehensive about. I was like, I'm going to get a lot of comments about my voice, which I did and which I still do. And what is interesting that has happened over time, right, is that, you know, I get so many comments from people, especially on my vlog, when they're like, your voice is like ASMR to me, or your voice is so soothing, or I love your voice, or whatever. And what I really, and those comments mean the world to me. Thank you so much. You know, and what I've realized over time is that my voice is unique to me. My voice is a part of my character, part of my personality. It is a part of who I am as when I'm walking around the world. And, you know, it's interesting because very rarely, like, this happened when we were in Las Vegas, very rarely when people, like, see me in public and they, like, put together, like, oh, Peter Monn does YouTube videos, that's who he is. It doesn't have anything to do with, like, what I look like. It's typically my voice. And we were at the pool at the Cosmopolitan this summer, and I was in the pool, and Alex was in a chair, and I was talking to him, and he was talking, and then this guy walked by, right, that worked there, and when he walked by, like, right as he walked by, I started talking, and he, like, turned and looked at me, and he was like, if you watch my vlogs, you'll remember this, because I talked about it. He was super nice, and, but anyway, we ended up talking for a long time, but he was like, oh my God, I recognize your voice immediately, which is so funny to me, right? Like, the one thing I've hated all of my life about myself is the one thing that I get recognized for them, and I don't hate it today, right? And when other people have problems with my voice, and they're like, ooh, your voice is cringy, and what is always interesting to me is when we want to pick somebody apart for something that they can't change about themselves. Like, that is the epitome of cruelty to me. So I don't really pay those comments any mind anymore, you know? I just don't. Like, I'm like, it's part of who I am, and if you have an issue with it, that issue is your issue, it's not my issue, right? So I think that, you know, we have to start looking at those things that we struggle with loving about ourselves, and we have to embrace them, and we have to love those things about every little piece of ourselves, right? The piece of us that is going to make mistakes and learn from it. The piece of us that's going to be successful in life, right? All of those, because I think when we only pick and choose the pieces of ourselves that we love, and the things that we don't love about ourselves we say are ugly and nasty, and we don't, whatever, we're not fully seeing ourselves as who we are, like how the rest of the world sees us, as, you know, maybe like a multifaceted, complex person that we are. You know, we aren't just this walking image of how we like to present ourselves to the world. We're multifaceted. You know, we have many different angles to us. You know, it's just like the way we are with one person is not the way that we are with another person. You know, we might have a deep friendship with somebody, but somebody else it might be more superficial, and that's okay, you know? We're different with everybody, and you know, the way that we present ourselves to the world is a combination of all of that. So don't ever shy away from those parts of yourself that you don't accept and you don't love and things like that. It was interesting. I was like just scrolling through Instagram last night, and somebody on there, like I noticed, like, you know, when you get suggested pictures, and so I went to this girl's Instagram, and she had like 400,000. I've never heard of this person before. She had like and I don't remember her name. I'm sorry, but she had like 400,000 or 500,000. It was like 459,000 followers on Instagram, and she was like a plus size model, and like underneath there. But not like model, like that's what her thing said. And underneath there, like each picture she had like, I mean, it was ridiculous. She had like 100,000 like likes on each picture. And then underneath there, people were like so nice and supportive of her. And she would always hashtag like plus size and hashtag this. And she's so, you know, just like you could tell that she's just so loved herself and loved her body. And that body positivity and that body acceptance of loving yourself of who you are at that moment. And that's not to say that down the road you don't want to change something about yourself, but at that moment, accepting and loving who you are on this journey that we call life at that moment, not wasting, you know, 2 years. And like I've shared this on here before, you know, before I started my booktube channel, which was the very first channel that I regularly posted content on here, before I did that, you know, I was so afraid to start, and I was like, I'm gonna wait until I lose a bunch of weight. I still haven't lost that weight I said I was gonna lose, you know, and that was almost 3 years ago that I wouldn't have started something that has meant so much to me and has become such a huge part of my life. I would have allowed my weight and my weight issues, instead of my acceptance of who I am at that moment, allow me to do something that I love. So do not allow the things in your life that you don't love about yourself stop you from enjoying life. Work on those things that you don't love about yourself. Not to change them, you can do that, but during that process, learn to love those parts of yourself, because that story of change is part of who you are as well. So I think it's really, really, like, that is one of the most valuable things that we can learn in life, is not to love ourselves arrogantly, not to love ourselves to the point where we think we're better than anybody else, but to love especially those parts of ourselves that we deem unlovable. I think that is vital to our journey. Okay, the next meditation I'm going to read, which is interesting going into that, is from The Language of Letting Go by Melody Beattie, and it is called Vulnerability, from January 8th. Some of us may have made a decision that no one was ever going to hurt us again. We may automatically go on feelings freeze mode when faced with emotional pain, or we may terminate a relationship the first time we feel hurt. Hurt feelings are a part of life, relationships, and recovery. It is understandable that we don't want to feel any more pain. Many of us have had more than our share. In fact, at some time in our life, we may have been overwhelmed, crushed, or stopped in our tracks by the amount of pain we felt. We may not have had the resources to cope with our pain or take care of ourselves. That was yesterday. Today, we don't have to be so frightened of pain. It does not have to overwhelm us. We are becoming strong enough to deal with hurt feelings, and we don't have to become martyrs, claiming that hurt feelings and suffering are all there is to life. We need only allow ourselves to feel vulnerable enough to feel hurt when that's appropriate, and take responsibility for our feelings, behaviors, and what we need to do to take care of ourselves. We don't have to analyze or justify our feelings. We need to feel them and try not to let them control our behavior. Maybe our pain is showing us we need to set a boundary. Maybe it's showing us we're going in a wrong direction. Maybe it's triggering a deep healing process. It's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to cry. It's okay to heal. It's okay to move on to the next feeling when it's time. Our willingness and capacity to feel hurt will eventually be matched by our willingness and capacity to feel joy. Being in recovery does not mean immunity from pain. It means learning to take loving care of ourselves when we are in pain. Today, I will not strike out at those who cause me pain. I will feel my emotions and take responsibility for them. I will accept hurt feelings as part of being in relationships. I am willing to surrender to the pain as well as the joy in life. You know, I think when we accept the fact that we are human beings on a journey in life, We also accept the fact that we are going to be hurt at times. Our feelings are going to be hurt. Our emotions are going to be hurt. But one of the things that I was told early in sobriety that I have to remember is that feelings are not facts. And just because I feel a certain way at that moment does not mean that it won't change 5 minutes down the road, 10 minutes down the road, 10 hours down the road, 10 days down the road, or 10 years down the road. My feelings can change at any time they want, and that is my right as a human being to have my feelings change. Sometimes at the moment, it's very much like when I talk about the difference between being reactionary and responding, is when somebody hits us immediately, right? Our initial response to that is hurt, it's pain. And what we do with that at that moment, like if we react back, that really speaks of who we are inside, and that maybe, like we aren't at a place in our lives to emotionally handle that kind of stuff. And I really believe that as we grow up in life and we become, more emotionally developed people, we don't always have to attack back. We don't always have to be reactionary and this. But I think in those moments, what it really is that we want other people to feel our pain. So those emotions that we're talking about, we want other people, the people that have hurt us, we want them to feel our pain on the same level that we're feeling it at that moment. Call it revenge, call it being fair, call it equality, call it whatever you want. But I think many of us feel that way at that time. But we're really missing the lesson, I think. And for me in life, at those moments when I've been like, damn, I want to tell on somebody and I want them to feel the exact same way that I feel, I have to step back and I have to go, okay, what is my lesson right now? This lesson isn't about them. This lesson isn't about my relationship with them. This is somebody that probably won't be in my life 10 or 20 years down the road. But what can I learn from this in this moment, okay? And what I have learned over time, and it doesn't happen immediately, is that I have to allow myself to be vulnerable, feel my feelings, process through my feelings with my sponsor or my husband or my best friend or my support network or, whatever, or journal about it, talk to my higher power about it, process my feelings through, really allow myself to feel those feelings, and then decide, do I want to respond to it? Do I not want to respond to it? Or do I want to get back on the horse again and see that there are going to be other people down the road that are, in romantic relationships, friendships, careers, things that I'm not going to have those feelings happen again, or maybe they will. Maybe I'll have the same hurt feelings time and time again, and I think that's really the building of a victim is what it is. And I think at some point then what we have to realize is, like Dr. Cherie Scott says in her book, If Life Were a Game, These Are the Rules, that when lessons are repeated until they are learned, and if we see a pattern in our lives of something happening over and over and over again, is it because we have a bad picker? Is it because we're picking people that are similar in their behavior traits? Is it just we just don't know? Or is it maybe that we need to realize that we're stronger and we have more endurance than we give ourselves credit? Vulnerability is a key to success. The more vulnerable we allow ourselves to be, there's a difference between vulnerability and weakness. And that's key, okay? There's a difference between being vulnerable and being weak. Being vulnerable means we allow ourselves to open to our feelings and to our emotions that we are feeling at any moment, and are allowing ourselves to be human and open up to that pain time and time again. But we're only going to grow as people, right, if we continue to allow ourselves to feel. When we shut off those feelings and we shut off building relationships and we say, I'm never going to allow somebody in again and I'm never going to do that, we are really the ones that lose out on life. If you're sitting on the other side of this and you're watching this and you've said that to yourself, because I've gone through these phases in my life before, right, where I'm like, I'm never going to date again because every time I do, I just get hurt. I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to, make new friends because they just screw you over. I'm never going to do that kind of stuff, right? What ends up happening over time is that I'm the one that's sitting at home alone. I'm the one that's uninvited to things. I'm the one that's not going on any dates. I'm the one that's suffering. It hurts me, not anybody else, right? And then my friends around me that do stick around are like, wow, you're kind of bitter. Or like, you think that every person you date is going to hurt you. And I have to realize that that's just not the case, and I've been very blessed that each relationship that I've gotten out of, I've met somebody else. And I can say that, I don't look at any of my relationships in my life, romantic relationships, as being horrible. There were great pieces to all of them. And I have to realize that each relationship, each interaction I've had with somebody in my life, romantic, friendship-wise, coworker, recovery friend, person on the street, whatever, is completely different and isolated to that one-on-one interaction. And I don't want to miss out on life, and I don't want you guys to miss out on life. So we have to stop putting boundaries, healthy boundaries is different than a wall, okay? It's important for us to set healthy boundaries and say, if this starts happening, I think I'm gonna get out, or I think I'm gonna see that as a red flag. And when I see a second red flag, then I'm out, right? It's important to set healthy boundaries. But to set boundaries of like, I'm never going to do this again, we are the ones missing out on that. To put up walls, to put up obstacles in our life that don't allow us to continue to meet new people, that's when we are really the ones that are missing out the most. So we have to allow ourselves to be vulnerable. At the same time, learning to love those parts about ourselves. Those are the two lessons that we learned today. Allow ourselves to be vulnerable, excuse me, and open to our emotions, while at the same time, allowing ourselves to love those parts of ourselves that we deem unlovable. And I think those are two really, really good meditations, for today, and especially for growth and working on ourselves, because I know for me, those are two areas that I continue to need to work on, is that realizing that I'm pretty good about being open to my emotions, but sometimes it's like, I was talking about this on my vlog last night. Back in the day, it was either I was like consumed with emotion or completely numb. Like there was no happy medium. Today, I'm kind of in this happy medium where I feel my emotions appropriately, but I have to say this. I really had to allow myself to bawl my eyes out over and over and over again, almost to the point where it drove other people crazy, and realize it's really not about them, it's about me, and to allow myself to work through my emotions and my pain, to get to the other side where I could feel things, appropriately. And I think that's what it is. It's about allowing ourselves to feel our emotions and be vulnerable to those emotions, to have those raw, authentic emotions and allow them to come out. Play some music in your apartment or your house, put on a movie that makes you feel emotion and feel sad. Get it out. You don't have to write it in a journal. You don't have to do it publicly. You don't have to do it on a camera. You don't have to do it around people or friends unless you feel comfortable doing it. But get those feelings out. Get those emotions out. It's freeing. And isn't this all about freedom? That's, I think, what one of the greatest lessons of life is all about. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.